Injuries are piling up, and guys like Jalen Waddle, Sam Laporta, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, a lot of people do not know what to do with guys like that, and you need to know what to do so you can save your fantasy football team. But let's start with Jalen Waddle here. And the big question with Jalen Waddle isn't really like, oh, he's been really bad, because he hasn't been really bad. You know, games of 13 points and games of 6.5 points, not terrible, 5 and 4 targets, whatever. The kicker here is everybody has seen the splits without Tua Tagovailoa. And so everybody is asking, what do I do with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? Tyreek Hill, you hold. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle. I think you have to hold Jalen Waddle, because I think if you're selling pretty low. Mm-hmm. And it's already been announced that Tua is not retiring. He's coming back. He's going into concussion protocol, and he's going to make a normal return. And because of that, I do think Jalen Waddle does have some upside when Tua comes back. I mean, again, he's caught every one of his targets this year. He's 9 for 9. He did have 100 yards in week 1, had a couple of big plays, right? And then again, week 2, you had Tua out for part of that game. It was altogether kind of a tough game because you saw the Buffalo Bills come in and absolutely steamroll the Dolphins. And so I don't think that this sample size, this 2-game sample size of Jalen Waddle is what we're going to get rest of season. Am I worried about Jalen Waddle from weeks 3 to 6? Yes. But after the bye week, you come back and you have Indianapolis, right? You have Arizona, you have Buffalo again. And then looking at the playoffs for this team, you've got Houston, you've got San Francisco, you've got Cleveland. He does have a pretty tough playoff schedule, and I will say that. But I do think, you hold until Jalen Waddle flashes again when he's playing teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, like the Rams, like the Cardinals, like the Colts. Because if you are going to sell Jalen Waddle, either A, because you don't believe in Tua, B, because you don't think he's getting enough volume, or C, because of the playoff schedule, I think you do so in the middle of the season. You don't do it now. Right now, the public perception of Jalen Waddle is at one of its lowest points because of the start and because of Tua. And, this applies to any type of fantasy football, but it especially applies here. Don't sell a player at their lowest point, especially a player with the talent level of Jalen Waddle, right? We've seen Jalen Waddle be extremely productive in years past, wide receiver 1 productive. We know he has that skill set. If anything were to happen to Tyreek, he's immediately the wide receiver 1 there. And so he's not a dude that I'm just like, you know what, I think this year's a lost cause for him. I'm going to ship him off. Even if I do want to do that, I'm not doing it now. I want to wait. And again, I think the upside with holding Jalen Waddle is you're betting on Tua coming back, being able to make competent throws. The Dolphins offense as a whole, the passing offense especially, looking better than it has been at the beginning of the season. And Jalen Waddle, I think, is a guy that every week has 25-point upside for you. Mm-hmm. Undeniably, right? I mean, the dude scored 40 points in a game, right? I think with Waddle, you hold him on your teams right now. I wouldn't really entertain offers. If you get somebody that wants to pay full price for him, like what you drafted for him, like a really good player for him, sure, I'm fine pivoting off of Waddle. A pivot is okay. But most people are going to try to buy low and get you to sell high. And at this point in time, I don't think this is smart with Jalen Waddle. Let's just hold Jalen Waddle. I think there are going to be better stretches for him this season, and I think there will be some higher sell opportunities if you really don't believe in the Dolphins offense and if you really don't believe in Jalen Waddle.
If I told you heading into week 2 that Jared Goff was going to throw the ball 55 times against the Tampa Bay Bucks, how much, just think of it in your head, how many points do you think Sam Laporta would have scored? What if I told you that it was 2 points? Yeah, that actually happened. 55 passing attempts from Jared Goff, and Sam Laporta only scored 2 points, had 3 of those 55 targets for 13 yards, only hauled in 2. And here is the thing that sucks for Sam Laporta that I think is an absolute concern that we did not have to worry about last year and was a big reason why he was so productive last season. Jameson Williams is now coming off of 2 straight 9+ target games. He had 11 targets in week 2 against Tampa Bay, 5 receptions, 79 yards. All of those targets, not all of them, but most of those targets that Laporta was getting last year, JMO is now being utilized way more than he ever has in the first 2 years of his career. I think you're all of that preseason hype with Jameson Williams is seeming to be very legitimate. Very legitimate. And something that I did not see coming. I did not see Jameson Williams out-targeting and usurping Sam Laporta, who showed out as a rookie in 2023. This is a situation where I think with where Laporta was going at price, which was usually like 3rd-ish rounds, you were looking at him and you're like, okay, he has tight end 1 upside. What do I do with him now because he's not getting this usage? I think a lot of people are going to say, well, buy. If you own Sam Laporta, you need to be holding Sam Laporta. I am not going any further than that. I'm not going to go out of my way to go buy Sam Laporta right now because honestly, And this is something that we should have brought up a little bit more than we did in the preseason talks about Sam Laporta, because this was something, I think we mentioned it like once in a video, was that Sam Laporta in 2023 had the same amount of receptions and yardage as Trey McBride and 7 more touchdowns. That was the difference. He had 10 touchdowns last year. He had less than 1,000 yards. He had 120 targets and 86 receptions, which again is phenomenal for a rookie tight end. So you would expect that usage and that opportunity to go up, but it hasn't. And not only has it not, like, there's literally every other asset in that offense is getting the ball before Laporta is. I mean, Gibbs and Montgomery are being targeted before Sam Laporta is. Am I freaking out about Laporta and his usage for the rest of the season? I'm not quite to like panic freak out mode, but it's enough where I'm going to be really, really conservative with what I'm doing with Sam Laporta and how I'm approaching his price in the market at the moment. Because honestly, you could be in a world of hurt if you go and pay for Sam Laporta and he doesn't show out like he did last season. Especially in this tight end market right now where it's already a crapshoot. Look, I will just ride with my Dallas Goederts. If I own Dallas Goedert, I'll just ride with my Dallas Goedert. I'm not going to go and pay up for Sam Laporta. Not with this tight end market right now. Honestly, the tight end that I want out of any tight end in the league at the moment is George Kittle. Like this, and because he has the most opportunity and big playability in an offense without Christian McCaffrey. This is a crowded offense, guys. And honestly, we may have just been wrong. We thought J-Mo was going to be the odd man out. Maybe it's Laporta. I'm not going to go quite that far yet and say that Sam Laporta is just not going to do anything. He's still incredibly talented, right? But to me, again, not going to buy him. I'm going to hold him if you own him. Are you going as far as selling him?
I don't. So here's the thing. If you can sell him for what you got him for, yeah, I'll do that because I'll down tier.
Yeah, I just don't know if
I just don't
possible.
see it's happening.
No.
So I think you hold.
I think you have to hold, but definitely not buying.
All right, I'll answer your question with a question because Garrett Wilson's going to be the next guy on this list. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'll be straight up. I think I'm not going to go hold on Garrett Wilson. I'm torn between buy and sell, though. I'm not going to lie. There are good cases to be made for both. He's leading the Jets in snaps, routes run, targets, right? So and there's nobody there. Mike Williams is behind him, right? There's nobody there. The flip side of that is he's not catching a high percentage of those targets at all. And it's not like Garrett Wilson has a play style to where you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, you expect him, similar to Jameson Williams. You expect Jameson Williams to be 5 for 11, right? You don't expect Garrett Wilson to be 6 for 11. He only had 6 targets this last week and caught 4 of those against Tennessee. Granted, Tennessee historically has had a pretty good defense. But he led the team in receiving yards, 57. Still hasn't gotten a touchdown. And the issue last year with Garrett Wilson is he was well below expected touchdowns. And this year we haven't really seen that flip. The Jets really haven't looked that good. The offensive line, they invested a lot into it, and I don't think it's looked much better. Rodgers has looked, right? I think Breece Hall's looked great. I'm not holding Garrett Wilson. I am going to make a decision. I'm going to make you make a decision. Are you buying or selling Garrett Wilson right now?
I'm going to go for buy because I think a lot of people are having a lot of the same concerns that you are, right? This is seemingly a tale as old as time with Garrett Wilson, right? We've had this conversation since he came into the league. Will he have the quarterback play to be productive consistently? And he hasn't for the last 2 years, the first 2 years of his career. And now you're going into the first 2 weeks of his first few games with Aaron Rodgers, and he puts up 9 and 8 points. So I think a lot of people have some PTSD. Same with kind of Drake London, right? Where you look, if we know anything, we know that this is a better situation than Garrett Wilson has been faced with for the last 2 years, and he still managed to get 168 targets last season in that situation. And the targets, again, are still there. And I know he's not bringing all of them in, but the week 2 matchup against Tennessee was odd. Braylon Allen had 2 touchdowns. Breece had another. I don't think you're seeing that every single week. If I were a betting man, I would not bet on Braylon Allen scoring 2 touchdowns a week. That really did take a lot of opportunity away from what Garrett Wilson was able to do in the red zone. I mean, for his floor with no touchdowns and only 6 and 4 catches respectively to be 9 and 8 points, like I'm okay with that. And I am going to be a little bit more like relaxed with Garrett Wilson. And now does that merit what his price was going into this season? No, that's why I wasn't taking him really at price. That's why I didn't love him at price going ahead of Justin Jefferson sometimes. But for me, I think if you have a guy that's panicking about Garrett Wilson and you can get him at a significant discount, I would go ahead and capitalize.
And I think I'm in the same boat because I think with Garrett Wilson, The matchups have been a little bit weird and a little bit tough in the first 2 weeks. He is getting red zone targets. He had 3 red zone targets in week 1. I don't know if he had any today, but again, you had some weird, like, just inside the red zone touchdowns from the Jets that normally you're probably not going to see. Where I think you're going to get some targets for Garrett Wilson there. Yeah. I also think that if we were to say to sell him, he would immediately pop off. And so there's the part of me that's like, I'm not stupid enough to do that anymore. Garrett Wilson, still extremely talented receiver. It's obvious watching him. And I think if you have somebody that's panicking on Garrett Wilson, you go for it. And I guess you get stuck with George Pickens. How about that?
Like the bane of my existence. I can't stand George Pickens. I couldn't stand him going into this season, and I had to take him in the flock league. I didn't have to, but I did.
Shouldn't have.
And yeah, I shouldn't have. Gosh, 4 targets today against Denver, 2 receptions. One of them got called back. That was supposed to be like a 60-yard gain. It doesn't matter. This is classic George Pickens. This is what he does all the time. And he has boom games. He has bust games. Last week he had 10 points. It was a salvageable week on 7 targets. Expect this to be the norm with George Pickens. What am I doing with Pickens right now? I am holding him at best. I am shopping him I am shopping him everywhere. Anyone that's even remotely interested in George Pickens and paying what he's worth at price, which is a little bit less right now than where he was going at price to begin the season, I'm going and I'm capitalizing. I think this is a horrible situation. Even with Russ coming back, I don't trust Russ. I don't trust that offense. I don't trust Fields. I don't trust anyone that's at quarterback in that situation. No other receiving asset is relevant there. It's just disgusting. It's pathetic. I hate everything about it. Do you have a less biased take on what you should be doing with George Pickens, or do you think I'm being reasonable with?
Well, you mentioned this, but he had a 51-yard catch called back, and he also had a 6-yard touchdown called back. So that drastically changes his day if he gets those 2 things, and I think that is important to note here.
It's just what Pickens does, though. Like, this is just he's touchdown or bust.
And so I don't want to make excuses for this because it's an Arthur Smith offense, and so when this team is within 10 yards of scoring, they're in 12 personnel. Or, they're not. I don't think you're going to see George Pickens get a lot of touchdowns or red zone targets. And so the fact that he had one called back today sucks. But
it does.
I'll be honest with you, people are quicker to make excuses for George Pickens than almost any player I've ever seen.
Yes.
And George Pickens is good for some things. I think if you are flexing George Pickens, fine, flex George Pickens. He's for big play upside. Right? I mean, you got big play upside for him. And again, the 51-yard catch would have salvaged his day. The touchdown would have obviously added on to that. But it doesn't matter. It didn't count. And we can make excuses all day and say this or that. The fact of the matter is he only had 4 targets today. And he really, he doesn't get that much opportunity in this Arthur Smith offense where the quarterback situation is not that good. I think you will have some people that will pay full price for George Pickens, and at that point, he's a sell for me. I think if you have people trying to give you nothing for George Pickens, I think he does have upside because he is the wide receiver 1 in that offense, because I do think he has big playability, and because I do think he's a talented wide receiver. I do think that. If people are willing to pay what you drafted him for, I'm absolutely okay with selling him. I have no problem with that. I think you can pivot and you can feel totally good about it.
I think a lot of people are going to look at that situation and be like, oh, maybe I can go get him because someone's low on him because he did get a touchdown call back and a big play called back.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. But this has been George Pickens since he came into the league.
All right, let's pivot now to Malik Neighbors. Obviously, you saw, a breakout from Malik Neighbors. And I say breakout in parentheses because I think Malik Neighbors has...
He was fine week 1, too.
I think but I also think he has a lot higher ceiling than this, right?
Yeah.
10 receptions for 127 yards and a touchdown. I think he has a higher ceiling than this. Malik Neighbors, if you have... I don't think you can buy Malik Neighbors. And I would tell you to buy if you can. So, no, sure, we'll slap a buy label on Malik Neighbors. And yes, I'm aware of these things. Number one... no.
Go.
Number one, they played a very bad offense in week 2. Number 2, he's not going to get 18 targets every week. Number 3, Daniel Jones is still not good. I know that. But I do know that 18, I will blindly follow targets and I will shamelessly do it. 18 targets, Daniel Jones is able to get him the ball. He just is. The type of actions that Malik Neighbors is getting open on, I think it's sustainable. I think it's sustainable against other defenses. I think Daniel Jones I think he is at least good enough to get Malik Neighbors the ball. And so in an offense where there's nobody else there, where he can get this amount of target share, and as talented and productive as he is, he also dropped a couple other passes that he would have had 30 points, man. Malik Neighbors, I think if you have him, you're holding him. If somebody's selling him, you're buying him. But Nathan doesn't think so.
I didn't say that. He does have Cleveland in week 3 and Dallas in week 4. Is this the time to go buy Malik Neighbors now, or does that scare you at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I think, though...
Here's my thing. Malik Neighbors, after an 18-target game, people are going to lose their freaking minds because Malik Neighbors was already being drafted in the 4th round of fantasy drafts. You are seeing that price skyrocket now with this 18-target game. I mean, for a guy that's... If you were able to move Malik Neighbors for Garrett Wilson, would you do it?
I'd think about it. I don't know, dude.
You would move Malik Neighbors for Garrett Wilson?
What is the... I don't know if I would. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if I would.
Oh man!
I think Neighbors could be ridiculous this year. I think if this is his target ceiling,
I just think that's jumping the gun a little bit with like a dream matchup. And again, we kind of overlooked that with where we ranked him this week. I thought that
you ranked him in the 30s. So
I ranked him a lot lower because I didn't think that he was going to be like super much more productive than he was the week before. But look, this still was a dream matchup against a Washington secondary that's no good, and this was a dream. I mean, they made Daniel Jones look halfway decent, which that's fool's gold.
Yeah.
Right. And Malik Neighbors is still going to get the ball. I completely agree with you. My question's the upside, right? My question's the upside week in and week out when he's not going to be playing Washington every single week. When you've got other guys that he is going to be priced in the same price range now as Garrett Wilson. Like he is.
I understand it. 18 targets, dude. I mean, Garrett Wilson is on an offense where it's not good.
I personally would rather have Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson than Daniel Jones throwing the ball to Malik Neighbors.
But again, we haven't seen the
Garrett
returns.
Wilson has already gotten 170 targets before.
And this is not a Garrett Wilson. You're making this a Garrett Wilson versus Malik Neighbors thing. That's not. It's not that. It's
I'm exploring the price range. Because
and again,
this will become Malik Neighbors' price range.
In a vacuum, would I take Garrett Wilson over Malik Neighbors? Absolutely, I would. But if I have Malik Neighbors on my fantasy team, am I making that trade this week? I think that's kind of stupid. I think it's kind of stupid to go trade him after this week. And I'm not gonna lie, you're lower on Neighbors than I am.
No, I
had Neighbors 11 spots higher this week in our rankings, and I had him low still. Yeah. Like, so I get it. I get that the situation's bad. But I mentioned,
Neighbors looked amazing. Again, I don't have anything against Neighbors as a player. He went where he went in the draft for a reason, and he got 18 targets because he is the wide receiver 1 there. But I just like other situations better.
But here's the thing: you're also you're assuming
good receivers in good situations as opposed to a good receiver in a bad situation.
I think you assuming that he's going at Garrett Wilson prices right now is a little bit presumptuous. I don't think he's going that high yet.
You want to bet?
We'll see. Let us know. Let us know in the comments.
Let us know.
But honestly, like with Malik Neighbors, I'll say it again.
It wouldn't shock me what Garrett Wilson has done the first 2 weeks of the year compared to what Neighbors has done. Like they are going to be priced pretty close because you're looking at the other rookie, Marvin Harrison Jr., who did the same thing, produced the same way, and he was already going back-to-back with Garrett Wilson at the beginning of the season. So
Malik Neighbors had a touchdown. We haven't seen a lot of that from Garrett Wilson, have we?
Yeah, no.
But I mean, here's the thing. I emphasize this again. I think what I saw from Malik Neighbors today in terms of the type of targets he was getting, the usage, I think it's sustainable. I think it's sustainable.
I did have to make you think about it though, because
you did make me think about it. But again, it's kind of a moot point because
that's why I wouldn't say buy Malik Neighbors, right? And you are right about that. He's a hold, I think, at best right now.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't go and overpay for Neighbors because at that point you're paying. You're paying.
You tell us in the comments
who has a lead outlet.
What should you do with Malik Neighbors? I think Malik Neighbors is going to be great. I think that it's sustainable. I think that what I saw and how he's being used, I think it's sustainable against most defenses because he's that good. And that's why people were drafting him because they thought this guy is good enough to elevate an offense. And I saw that today. I saw him elevate an offense today, even if it was against the Commanders.
Yep, he did.
So
I do not deny that.
Let's talk about. I'll let you go with Aaron Jones here.
Yeah, so Aaron Jones kind of had a down week in a week where you kind of expected him to do a little bit more when J-Jeff was out. He only had 7 points. Look, week 1, he was way better, right? He had 18 points in week 1 off of 14 carries. I think the big discussion is going to be Ty Chandler had a true backfield split with Aaron Jones. Ty Chandler had 10 carries for 82 yards, and Aaron Jones had 9 carries for 32. Ty Chandler ate into Aaron Jones' workload. Now, this would not be as big of a discussion if Aaron Jones had not fumbled the ball at the 1-yard line when he was literally walking in for a touchdown, and then they stripped the ball away. So for me, I think this could be a little bit overplayed where, again, Aaron Jones is still going to be the guy. He's still going to be the go-to. And this was just a tough week against a good San Fran defense where they knew once JJ was out of the game, they knew that Aaron Jones was the best weapon out there. They knew that Aaron Jones was going to be getting the ball. They knew that he was going to be the target in the receiving game as well. I mean, Aaron Jones had 6 targets in that game for 36 yards as well. So, look, to me, I think Aaron Jones is, we keep saying hold, but he's a hold if you own him. He's a buy if you see people freaking out about Ty Chandler getting 10 carries because, again, Aaron Jones is getting all of the relevant opportunities there, all of the opportunities in the red zone that matter, that are going to get you the highest upside point availability there. Like it's all Aaron Jones. So don't worry about this week. I think he's going to be totally fine. Aaron Jones can still be productive even if he's splitting carries with Ty Chandler.
I mean, I'm going buy for Aaron Jones. What was your official verdict?
I said hold buy.
Yeah,
if you own him, hold him. If you don't, I think you explore offers to go get Aaron Jones.
I am going buy, and this is from PFF. On the first 7 drives, Jones had 27 snaps. Ty Chandler had 6. And I think you're still going to see, I mean, he had 6 targets today as well. I think you're still going to see him get most of the valuable production in that offense. I think that even people are going to look at Ty Chandler out attempting him, just similar to Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, and maybe being more efficient, and they're going to be like, this is a reason to fade this guy. But you're fading the guy who's getting the goal line work. You're fading the guy that's getting the receptions, right? And so I don't think that's a good idea. And I'm totally good buying Aaron Jones because honestly, he was a stupid fumble away from having another 15, 16 points this week. And I think that offense is also serviceable, and that kind of makes a big difference in my decision here. But the last guy on this list is going to be Derrick Henry. And Henry wasn't a guy we talked about last week, although he was a guy a lot of people were freaking out about. So last week you had 10 points, 13 attempts for 46 yards and a touchdown. This week, 16 points, 18 attempts, 84 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he was not inefficient today. That's the thing, right?
This is
every year.
Classic King Henry.
Every year. He's going to get better as the season goes on. In fact, I was watching a run today, and like he stiff-armed a guy and threw him, and then it bounced off somebody else, and I was like, oh, he's getting into form right now.
Oh, yeah.
Look, Derrick Henry, he's not a guy I'm selling. He's probably, I'm going to say hold for Derrick Henry. I don't think I want to go out and buy Derrick Henry. I don't think his price has decreased enough to buy him. And I do think he has touchdown upside every single week. Yeah, we've seen a touchdown in each of the first 2 weeks, but like, what are the odds that he has a touchdown in 14 games? I don't think it's that unlikely. I really don't think that's that unlikely. No. And that's a lot of touchdowns in a lot of games. And I don't think it's that unlikely. I think you see this Ravens team get in the red zone a lot, and you see Derrick Henry consistently finish in the red zone as well. And a lot of people are freaking out because you're like, yeah, but you're not seeing any receiving work from Derrick Henry.
We never have.
That doesn't matter. Derrick Henry's not a receiving back. I mean, the dude has like never caught a receiving touchdown. He caught 2 receiving touchdowns in 2019 and 1 in 2017. He has 3 total receiving touchdowns in his career. This was never a thing for Derrick Henry. And so people who were drafting him, you weren't drafting him for the receiving upside or you weren't drafting him for a high floor, that's for sure. He's going to have a low floor. But so far his floor has been 10 points. He only played 46% of snaps in week 1 and had 10 points.
He's only averaged more than 2 receptions per game once in his career.
It's not the type of player he is. And so with Henry, I think he's just a hold. I'm not super worried about, a lot of people are like, oh, he's only getting 50% snaps. I mean, last year, when you're looking at how he was splitting with Tyjae Spears, I mean, there were games where he's getting 49, 43, 60, 40, 48, 48, 42. It's the same thing. I mean, you saw him be productive in a game where he had 40% snap share, 24 points, 48% snap share, 17 points, 49% snap share, 17 points.
I have a question for you. Is Derrick Henry scoring touchdowns and scoring points with that snap share? Yes.
Yes.
What's fantasy football about?
Trading me Justin Jefferson in the flock
scoring
league?
Points. Shut up. Scoring points. It's about scoring points. And Derrick Henry is doing that, and he will continue to do that in an offense that's built for him to get goal line carries and get opportunities in the red zone. He's going to keep doing this, guys, whether you like it or not. Derrick Henry has been terrorizing the AFC South for 10 years, and he's going to keep doing it in Baltimore. So
you see these scars? Derrick Henry gave me these scars.
Yes.
As a Colts fan, I'm not
want to know how I got these scars?
Right. Him and now CJ Stroud's adding to it as well. And actually, honestly, some of them are self-inflicted at this point. Anyways.
They are 100% self-inflicted.
But do us a huge favor. Make sure you drop a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this video in this type of format. Obviously, you had Nathan and I just disagreeing a little bit on stuff today. Sometimes
we didn't even disagree that much. It was just a discussion. Like I think Malik Neighbors' production and how he got his points was sustainable.
Nathan hates
Malik Neighbors.
He hates him.
It's just more the price range, and do I prefer other players in that range? If you can get Garrett Wilson, I'd do it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. He's still going. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you later.